Welcome back to the back porch, guys. This week we're going to be doing another experiment. We did recently a trimmed versus untrimmed brisket on our Green Mountain Grills Jim Bowie, and it turned out a very good experiment, and also turned out some very decent results, some that were predicted, and showed us that hopefully trimming will up your barbecue game if you don't trim yet. Yes, you can over trim, but with everything else, moderation is key to having a good turnout. Now, this week we're also going to be using the Green Mountain Grills Jim Bowie because I want there to be little to no variables in the circumstances surrounding this experiment. It's very easily controlled. There's lots of air movement, and that air movement is going to be key in this experiment because we're going to be testing the Spritz versus non-Spritz in a brisket cook. Now, this is the point of a brisket that I've trimmed up to try to get very similar in size, in shape. This is about the best I could do with the brisket that I had, but I think they're very similar in fat content and things like that, and that's really what we got to aim at, because if we're comparing a leaner piece to a fattier piece, it's not going to be a very fair comparison. So we're just going to hit this with some simple SPG. Not even SPG. We're just going to hit this with some simple salt and pepper, 2 parts 16 mesh black pepper, 1 part coarse kosher salt, and throw it on the smoker at 275, and we're going to leave it alone for a couple hours. Every time that I spritz it, I am going to pull out the piece that I'm spritzing, so to not introduce any humidity directly into the smoker, just to keep everything kosher that way. Okay. Let's go ahead and call it right now. Just to be fair, this one has a little more sharp corners on it. We're going to go ahead and spritz this one on my right, no spritz on the left. The left has a little bit more depth to it. This one has a little bit more height to it, so we'll see kind of how that plays a difference. But overall, very, very similar. Two hours in, folks, and we're going to take our first look at these and see if they're ready to spritz, or if one's ready to spritz. Remember, we're going to keep the spritz one onto the right side of the screen at all times, or at least try to. If I'm going to spritz it, I will pull it out of the smoker to make that happen. So let's go ahead and open it up and see how it's going to look. You know, this doesn't mean that I am definitely going to spritz it. Remember, the mistakes of spritzing are spritzing too early and washing the bark off, and spritzing too often and too much. And I found a great new spritzer that works really well to reduce the chances of spritzing too much. This is just a garden sprayer from Walmart, actually, and I've got Worcestershire sauce, water, and pickle juice in there. And the reason I'm using those things is they have different boiling points, and so their evaporation rates will be at different points, but also the difference in the acidic levels and the flavor profiles that they will add to spritzing, because spritzing is not just about keeping the surface moist, it's about layering flavors as well. So let's go ahead and open it up, take a look. Okay, you can see it's pretty dry, nothing's coming off. These are just other pieces of the brisket that I threw on there for eating. But I am going to go ahead and grab our Spritz brisket, and we're going to hit it with some Spritz. off to the side to not introduce, ooh, that's hot, to not introduce any more moisture than we need to into the smoker to make it a fair comparison, so as not to taint the unspritzed, purest brisket. So we're going to keep doing that. We'll check back every 45 minutes to an hour, and if it needs to be spritzed then, we'll spritz it then as well. When we come back to you, we'll be opening them up out of paper after the rest and checking them out, comparing spritz versus unspritz. It's been about 7 hours since we started this cook, and these have rested for about 30 minutes now sitting out here, and we're ready to open them up, and I want to open them up with you so that we can look at them together to see, as soon as we open them up, what they look like and compare them. I'm excited. Now, as far as time goes, that was the biggest thing that people were like, oh, you're wasting time by spritzing, it's taking too long. These were negligible. The temperature difference was negligible. As far, I mean, basically with this cook, that's a bull statement. All right, so non-spritzed, still pretty moist on top. Okay, let's try the spritzed. See how that looks, and it feels great. Feels good. Squeezes nice. We can get it open. Beautiful bark, nice and moist looking all the way around. I would say that the bark is a little more prominent on the non-spritzed, but either way, it's a really good bark nonetheless. So let's go ahead and cut into them and see how they are. A little tough to cut through, a little crumbly on the edges, a little rough on the bottom, but so we got non-spritzed. Let's do spritzed. Beautiful cut through. Okay. I'm just going to hold it up because, I mean, see if you can see the moisture difference. I've never been one to claim that spritzing helps moisture inside, but where salt goes, water follows. That's just more science of osmosis, and I think that's pretty clear. A little more moist, but let's take a test, and let's let the flavor talk for it. I mean, it's tender. Don't get me wrong. The non-spritz is tender, just as tender as the spritz. So, tenderness-wise, no difference. Time-wise, no difference. Texture-wise, the outside is a little more done on the non-spritz. It's a little more crispy. It flakes off when you slice it. On the spritzed, it's cut cleanly and has a great bark. Let's go ahead and slice off some bites. And I'll say that the smoke ring on the spritzed is better than the smoke ring on the non-spritz. But let's taste it. Let's go with non-spritz first. Tastes like a good traditional brisket. It's not the bark that would be a little bit more done than what I would like. Is it unappetizing? Let me get a little bit bigger bite with that bark. I mean, it's not something that I would be upset about. It's good. This was a choice brisket, so I don't expect it to be the most juicy thing in the world, but it's not very juicy. All right, Spritz. I get more of a flavor profile, a little bit more savoriness. The bark, you can tell, is a little bit more of a, maybe of a sugary kind of a sweet, but we didn't use anything sweet. It's a great flavor profile, but also it's a ton more juicy. A ton more. Wow. All right. Now, this just being one cook, obviously, this theory would have to be tested across, multiple cooks over different times, and to be fair, it'd be on, different smokers and things like that. But, I mean, overall, I think we've proven that you can cook a good brisket without spritzing it. You can do it. This is an edible brisket, but this one's better. It's just better. If you want to hear more about how we spritz, make sure you check on the card about why we spritz and the science behind it. Card's above, and it's linked down below in the description. Look, guys, here's how I liken this. A brand new truck is great. It's awesome. It's amazing. That's an unspritzed brisket. But a brand new truck with a top of the line trim package is even better. That's why we spritz. Juiciness, flavor profile, texture, all that good stuff comes from a good spritz and doing it properly. I love you guys. Make sure you hit that thumbs up. Comment down below what you like to spritz with. Hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't already. I love you. Drink more water.